were cleaned up in time for the show in the fall. As the Royal neared its three-quarter century mark, it became evident new quarters would have to be found for it. In a short time, a new American Royal building was in operation. The American Royal, founded as the result of the booming livestock trade in the post-Civil War years, has survived fire and water and hard times, become America's premier livestock exposition. It ended its first six-day run on this date, October 28, 1899.
When did you know that Grandma was the one?
When her sister dumped me.
Vamoose, you little varmint.
Signal searching varmints! Get your own reception!
European leaders turn up the heat on the NSA.
They're demanding an explanation.
Michael Jackson's doctor.
He should have been in jail a lot longer.
Released from jail.
He was given the maximum term. They didn't let him out a minute early.
A year after Superstorm Sandy.
This house was rebuilt. This one is being rebuilt.
Good morning. I'm Steve Kathan with the CBS World News Roundup. There are new revelations about Americans spying overseas as top European officials head to this country looking for answers. We're live in Washington with CBS's Peter Mayer.
Steve, this morning German media reports say U.S. snooping on Chancellor Angela Merkel's communications date to the George W. Bush administration. The NSA strongly denies a German report that the agency's chief briefed President Obama on the surveillance. New Hampshire Senator Jean Shaheen voiced concerns on CBS's Face the Nation.
We have repair work to do, and I think we have hard questions we need to ask of the NSA.
A Madrid newspaper report alleging spying on millions of phone calls in Spain will likely add to the hard questions from those European Union representatives in Washington today. They'll meet with administration officials and intelligence agency staffers.
Well, now to Los Angeles, where just after midnight, the late Michael Jackson's former doctor, Conrad Murray, was released from jail. Jackson fan Carlene Taylor was there to see it.
He was unfit, unethical, incompetent, and greedy.
Murray served 2 years. His attorney, Valerie Wass.
If his victim was Michael Jackson, this would have been a medical board proceeding, not a criminal proceeding.
CBS's Steve Futterman.
Conrad Murray always maintained his innocence.
I told the truth.
But many devoted Michael Jackson fans blamed Murray for the pop star's death.
He left the room. He left Michael Jackson to die.
He was charged with involuntary manslaughter. During the trial, prosecutors accused Murray of violating established medical practices.
To leave them unattended in that state is medical abandonment.
He was found guilty, and when he was sentenced, the judge in the case sharply criticized Murray's professional behavior.
Dr. Murray became involved in a cycle of horrible medicine.
Steve Futterman, CBS News.
Grammy-winning singer Chris Brown has a court date today in Washington. He and another man are charged with felony assault after an early morning fight near a hotel over the weekend. Brown's on probation for assaulting his then-girlfriend Rihanna in 2009. New York's Ellis Island, the one-time gateway for immigrants, is opening today to the public for the first time since it was swamped a year ago by Superstorm Sandy. Some artifacts are still in storage. The storm knocked out boilers and electrical systems. CBS's Heather Bosch has more on the slow road to recovery from the storm in New York.
The coffee is brewing again at Baked, a big change from last year when Renato Pagliafito's Brooklyn, New York restaurant was soaked by Sandy.
We had a chest freezer downstairs that was actually opened and floating in the basement.
Insurance and loans helped with repairs. So did hard work.
I just, roll up my pants, put on some rubber boots, and just get into it. And that's what we all did.
But for the owner of Bubba's Doghouse restaurant,
I just feel like I'm going to wake up soon. It's all going to be over.
Sandy's wrath continues. Bubba DeMuro reopened his business on the New Jersey shore after Sandy.
There it goes.
Only to watch helplessly months later as fire destroyed it and other businesses on the Seaside Park boardwalk. The blaze blamed on wiring damage caused by Sandy.
What happened to me in 1 year usually don't happen to people in 50 years. I realize that. But you got to persevere. That's life.
So he plans to rebuild again. Heather Bosch, CBS News.
Overseas, Great Britain is being walloped by an unusual storm. CBS's Vicky Barker is in London.
The North Atlantic storm was packing 99-mile-per-hour winds when it came ashore, then tore across southern England. Trees are down, roads flooded, more than 250,000 homes without power, and trains and planes canceled. At least 3 people are dead, including a 14-year-old boy swept out to sea by a freak wave. But it could have been much worse. Forecasters saw this storm building days ago, and most Brits seem to have heeded the warnings to be prepared and stay indoors today. Vicky Barker, CBS News, London.
The late Lou Reed, a visionary musician, had just one major hit song.
Hey, babe, take a walk on the wild side. Said, hey, babe, take a walk on the wild side.
1972's Walk on the Wild Side came as Reed embarked on a solo career after being the influential leader of the 1960s group The Velvet Underground. Rolling Stone magazine's Anthony DeCurtis says the band and Reed broke new ground.
Nirvana, Pearl Jam, U2, all of those artists, profoundly influenced by Lou Reed.
Reed died yesterday of liver disease at 71. He'd undergone a liver transplant earlier this year. Rock producer Brian Eno once said everyone who bought a Velvet Underground record later started a band. In Brooklyn, New York, a Chinese immigrant is accused of stabbing 5 relatives to death, including 4 young children. The 25-year-old man had been living with the family for a week. Police say he was jealous of the successes of other immigrants. 3 people in an SUV were killed in Beijing's Tiananmen Square as it crashed through a barrier and caught fire. 2 tourists were killed, dozens hurt. It's not known if the crash was deliberate or accidental. Rebels in Colombia have released former U.S. soldier Kevin Sute, who was seized back in June. The Reverend Jesse Jackson intervened on his family's behalf.
It's a big deal because he just vanished, and they thought they would never see him again. Now that he is confirmed to be alive, it's a great sense of joy in that household.
Back here at home, a vigil yesterday in Danvers, Massachusetts, for high school math teacher Colleen Ritzer, allegedly killed by a teenage student. Caroline Rufo was her college roommate.
Just extreme loss. There's going to be a void forever in our hearts.
Game 3 of the World Series ended with an unusual interference call. Last night, Game 4, with the Cardinals threatening, closed with the unexpected. A pickoff at first base.
Lester against Wainwright. Throw to first, got him picked. He's out! He got him! He's out at first, and the ball game is over. Koji picked him off.
The call on Red Sox radio as Boston beat St. Louis 4-2. The big blow was a Johnny Gomes 3-run homer.
There's a drive into left. Back at the track, at the wall, it's gone.
The call on Fox. The series now tied at 2 games each. Starting next fall, TV programs watched on phones and tablets will be included with traditional ratings from Nielsen. It's estimated 6% of current viewing is not measured now. A new report on the flu could be a wake-up call for parents of young children, not just those with medical conditions that could be considered high risk. Here's reporter Sabrina Gibbons.
The CDC has found that over the past 8 flu seasons, many of the kids who have died from flu were otherwise healthy.
Over 40% of the children who died had been previously healthy, and very few of these children had been vaccinated.
Dr. Karen Wong with the CDC says of the children who died,
about a third of the children died within 3 days of their first reported symptom, and most of the children died within a week.
Wong says this is evidence that any child could be at risk of dying from flu. Sabrina Gibbons for CBS News, Atlanta.
Weather experts have now come up with a way to predict killer heat waves up to 3 weeks in advance. Now the best they can do is about 10 days. The key, according to new research, is a pattern of high and low pressure systems around the globe. An earlier warning might prevent some heat-related deaths. And that's the World News Roundup. I'm Steve Kathan, CBS News.
Hi friends, I had to step away for just a little bit. There's somebody at the front door, and I'll be right back. But in the meantime, here's Herb Albert and the Tijuana Brass to keep you company, okay, while we kill time. I'll be right back.
This Marketplace podcast is supported by Mingle, the agile project management tool for software teams focused on continuous improvement. Mingle's custom card walls and realistic reporting help teams start with familiar practices and change as they go. More at thoughtworks.com/mingle.
France, Germany, now Spain with the alleged NSA spying.
Wake up to the day's top business headlines. Subscribe to the Marketplace Morning Report podcast. It's on iTunes and marketplace.org/podcasts.
From 8 p.m. in New York, I'm David Brancaccio with the Marketplace Midday Update. The leaks keep dripping out of former National Security Agency contractor Edward Snowden. This time, it's the report that in a single month, the U.S. tracked 60 million phone calls in Spain. The newspaper El Mundo had the scoop today. Over the weekend, at least one Republican criticized President Obama for his reported apology to the leader of Germany after a leak that the NSA had monitored her mobile phone. Congressman Peter King says the NSA monitoring to fight terrorism saves lives and that the U.S. has nothing to apologize for. But others worry about the diplomatic, political, and economic fallout.
These new revelations about bugging and intelligence, I think, have created concern, and that doesn't help brand America.
Martin Sorrell is CEO of WPP, the multinational advertising and PR conglomerate.
You know, increasingly the world is becoming an American, China, G2-dominated world, and I think it's important for America's reputation and brand to be strong.
Sir Martin says the federal government shutdown and debt ceiling mess are also part of the branding problem. More of that interview is at marketplace.org. Now, a year ago this week, Hurricane Sandy plowed into the eastern seaboard, leaving dozens dead and causing more than $50 billion in damage. The repairs are ongoing in so many spots, with applications on file from 25,000 New Yorkers in need of assistance, mostly to fix homes. But some communities are not rebuilding. Marketplace's Sabri Benishur visited Oakwood Beach on Staten Island, a neighborhood that may never return.
A year after Sandy, Patty Snyder's home is still gutted. She moved out after the storm.
As you open the door, you can already smell must and just arrived.
Re-entering this place brings back bad memories. During the storm, she lost contact with her family. At about 4 a.m. that night, she went to her brother's house, where she found her husband and brother-in-law.
I said, "Where's my brother?" The last time I spoke with him, he was in the basement. And they said he can't be in the basement because the water is still up so high, not knowing that he was down there covered with the water and the debris. And we found him 2 days later. Yep. It'll never be safe, as far as I'm concerned.
It hasn't been particularly safe since '92. Some neighbors have been flooded regularly, and brush fires often consume the surrounding marsh.
This area is a problem area, and there shouldn't be homes here.
The state of New York agrees, set aside up to $400 million to buy homes in communities like Oakwood Beach, where 184 out of 185 homeowners here have applied to get bought out for pre-storm value plus 10%.
Well, that land will be forever vacant. Once we buy the homes, we'll demolish the home.
Seth Diamond directs New York State's Office of Storm Recovery.
It'll provide for a much larger area on Staten Island a wonderful way to keep the water away in a natural way.
Basically, sacrifice this neighborhood, possibly save others. Frank Lettieri is waiting for his buyout check to arrive. He didn't want to sell to the government. Like many residents, he actually rebuilt his home. But now he feels like he has no choice but to sell.
They're going to knock all these houses down. We'll be surrounded by weeds. You know, we can't be the only ones left.
There are objections to the government bailing out people who've built in risky areas. That makes Joseph Tyrone bristle. He helped his neighbor's petition to get bought out.
They were never told by the real estate agents that sold them the homes, or the builders that built the homes especially, there was this constant peril.
He says the buyout will save FEMA money in the long run.
Where neighborhoods choose not to be bought out, the ultimate cost is much greater than a buyout.
State officials say it'll be a couple of years before the teardown of Oakwood is done, but it's already well underway. Across the street from Patty Snyder, the government is boarding up homes and people are leaving.
This just knocked the wind out of our sails, you know.
In Oakwood Beach, I'm Sabri Benishur for Marketplace.
get Marketplace's top headlines, podcasts, and special features delivered right to your inbox each day. Subscribe to the Midday Update newsletter at marketplace.org.
India is trying to attract more foreign banks, but with strings attached. Rules